I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. This week we're coming to you from the European Parliament here in Brussels. Now, what is one thing that annoys so many working women, especially here in Europe? The fact that there's a substantial number of us who are still being paid less than men. In this edition, we're going to take a look at what actually needs to be done in order to close that gap. Europe is seen by many as being at the vanguard of women's rights, but how do European nations actually fare when it comes to pay inequality? And who's the best and who's the worst? The answers indeed may surprise you.
A woman who works is unfortunately synonymous with being less well paid, and with reason. For the same work, women in Europe earn on average 16% less than men. Among the worst countries for wage equality are Estonia, with a gender pay gap of 28%, and Latvia, with 21%. The general observation is jobs carrying more responsibility are often given to men. As we go up the corporate ladder, the gap widens further. In executive positions, men earn 28% more than their female colleagues. So, if you're a European woman seeking equal pay, the best workplaces are in Romania, Italy, Luxembourg or Belgium, where the gender wage gap lies around 6%, a figure that can partly be explained by hiring practices where qualifications take a back seat to skills. In France, the salary gap between men and women is around 13%. In practical terms, this means that from the 7th of November at 4:34 p.m. sharp, French women work for free until the end of the year. Across the Atlantic, the US and Canada are hardly exemplary either. There, women make 18% on average less than their male counterparts.
So what can the European Parliament do, if anything, to correct gender pay inequality? With me is Malin Björk, a Swedish MEP who's also a member of the Left. In addition, she recently co-authored a report on equality and EU trade deals. Malin, thank you so much for being with us. It's 2018 and we still have major world economies within the European bloc, such as France, Germany and the UK, having a problem with the gender pay gap. Given the fact that the number of women in the workforce is rising each day, why is this still happening?
Well, I think we can spell it out. It's plain discrimination. It's also inequality at home and inequality when it comes to catering to care needs and family needs at home, where we still see a deep inequality between women and men, and that in itself generates an inequality also in the labor markets. But we see also a pure cases of discrimination in the workplace.
Do you sense, however, that the mood is starting to change, especially with the larger number of younger women in the workforce, and that they're not going to stand anymore for pay inequality?
No, I think women coming out to the workplace and saying, no, you're going to get around 15% less paid because you have a vagina. I think young women will not accept that. So that is a big hope that the pressure will rise for a change. But policymakers have to respond to that change, that pressure.
Last year, a Polish MEP, Malin, created headlines, didn't he, when he stood up here in the European Parliament and said it was the norm for women to earn less than men. Let's just take a listen to what he had to say.
And of course, women must earn less than men, because they are weaker, they are smaller, they are less intelligent, and they must earn less. That's all.
So what was your reaction to his comments?
Well, this man is a known sexist, a known racist, and I think in some ways his statements are marginal. The problem is that even though he's at the outer margins of what is being said in this house, The reality is that we have a pay gap of 15%, and that's structural, and there's nothing really being done about it. There's complacency about that. And so then people like him can get, air and oxygen. So I think we should cut his oxygen, we should get to work, and to get rid of the gender pay gap.
But what can European institutions actually do about this, or is it the case you just have to leave it up to the member states?
Well, as in most cases now in European policymaking, it's partly the EU and partly the member states, and also other actors such as the social partners, the trade unions and the employers that have to act. Everybody has to act. At the EU level, I'm happy to see that the Commission is taking this slightly more serious, but I would see some more binding action actually at the EU level. On the national level, governments can do a lot. They can improve their equal pay legislation, like Iceland and like some other countries have done. Reporting has to be transparent and obligatory. So I'm looking forward to some joint initiatives between the European Union level and the government level, but also involving the social partners.
And are you getting more of a receptive welcome here within the European Parliament to such recommendations?
You know what? Women's rights and gender equality is quite a topic that stirs lots of emotions.
Very strong emotions, doesn't
Yes,
it?
very strong emotions. And we are very many strong feminists in this house, and we work together cross-party, and we are determined. So nothing will actually stop us. But of course there is resistance. Of course there are people that want to move back to a different century. But I think time is up, and I think women are going to demand this change.
Now, you recently co-authored this report on equality within the context of EU trade deals. What sort of recommendations did you actually make?
Well, I think what we started to do was to look at the economy. It's not gender neutral. The EU trade deals are not gender neutral. The workplace policies are not gender neutral. So we looked at the international trade deals and what needs to be part of those. We have to have a gender equality chapter in EU trade deals, and that is what currently is recommended in the report. It's a big step forward.
So what's going to happen with those recommendations? Are they going to be followed through?
Well, it will be recommendations made to the Commission, the European Commission, which has then the power to adopt them and take them to their heart or disregard them. If they disregard them, I think they would be responsible in front of the female population of this continent.
Now, you're a Swedish MEP, and your country is regarded as being a beacon for women's rights. But even in Sweden, you have an issue with gender pay gap, to the point I think it's somewhere around the same rate as it is in the United States. Why is it that that is still the case?
In Sweden, I would say, as most countries also, we have unequal sharing of family responsibilities, of care responsibilities, mostly of children, of course. And this is where women and men, young couples, start to differ. They get, the women start to take more responsibilities, which becomes like a vicious circle. Then they get less available for the labor market, and then they're expected, they get paid less, and then they get expected to care more for the children. It's a circle that we have to break, and we have to break it at home and in the workplace.
Do you find this all very frustrating that we're here and we're still talking about these issues, given the fact that the feminist movement has now been in existence for decades?
I get frustrated when I hear that don't be so impatient. It will happen. Let's have another conference, another seminar. Let's change attitudes. We are policymakers. We have at our hands the possibility to make laws and tools and instruments that will make a real change. Let's use them. Let's not, throw it over to the next generation or to 3 generations ahead. That's not responsible.
Malin Bjork, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Now, as we saw earlier, Belgium has one of the lowest gender pay gap rates here in Europe. Our team on the ground sent us this report about some local companies who are working very hard to reduce pay inequality.
It's impossible to miss them in the middle of this open space. In these folders you can access the salaries of all employees, including that of the executive director. In fact, she was the one who wanted to set up the system.
This helps to avoid rumours, because some people tend to create myths about themselves and their compensation that doesn't correspond to the document.
When she founded this logistics company back in 2013, Hinde Bulbeum never imagined a second pay scale for women that would be less than men. And now she feels the benefits of this policy every single day.
Women feel much more empowered, much more important, and therefore make better decisions and get more involved. So the positive short-term and long-term impact is real and measurable.
Felicia came back from maternity leave 6 months ago. Now in a fixed-term contract, she will soon sign a permanent one.
I try to put myself in the shoes of other people who work for companies where there's no equality. It's very demotivating.
To address the gender pay gap in her event management firm, Yasmin has called on the services of this company.
I also wanted to carry out an analysis regarding the differences between men and women in the same positions.
For 4 years now, she's been using software that adjusts wages and rises based on well-defined criteria.
It focuses on 3 main criteria: the skills of individuals, performance and talent.
When we take the concept of talent alone, there is a way to be quite subjective, but we must also take into account what we call skills, what the person has today. This is the present. And we must also be interested in the performance, so what the person did in the past. Then we can reach objectivity by combining all these perspectives.
This application can bring about a bright future, according to its creator. Reggie Charles Deegan has started offering his software to companies in Iceland, where equal pay is mandatory since January 1st.
And that's it for this special edition, coming to you from a rather chilly Brussels. You can connect with us, of course, via Facebook, that being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and keep those story ideas coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.